welcome to my channel, Watch My Service. If you want to get a hold of me, it's jdwatchservice@gmail.com. jdwatchservice@gmail.com. And here on the bench today, I've got an old Waltham pocket watch. Look at that. It's ticking away, but I don't know if it's ticking away that strong. So let's have a look at the balance here for a second. Just undo this, and there we go. And it is ticking, but not that strong. And there you go. What we would call this is crappy amplitude. Crappy amplitude. Either strength of mainspring, but likely dirt. This is an old watch. I'm going to try to bring up the statistics on it to see what this movement is. But first, I'm going to just do a slow-mo recording of this and see how well or not well it's doing. There we go. There's a word you're never going to use. Not well. There we go. There's a swing on it. Not too good. It's swinging 180 degrees, which means half of that is the amplitude. So let's check up this watch movement and see what it is. They're looking very carefully at the serial number. It's been scratched a mite. So if you look at that, there's scratch marks and a serial number. But I could make out that 6 underneath the scratch numbers. So 6937496 is the serial number of this watch. So let's do a quick watch check here. There we go. Please guess what this is. It's a G-Shock 5000U, solar, automatic, radio, blah blah blah. You wear it forever and supposedly it'll never die. I should be wearing an automatic watch right now. I am looking at a micro rotor watch right now that I might be interested in getting. But anyway, this is the let's take a look at the data on this watch. All right, that is the watch, as you can see. So the data on the watch says it's there's a serial number, the grade number 1. That's interesting. The model is a 1883. You need that model number in order to look up parts. It's a 7-jewel watch, so it's not a high-end watch, but it is pretty old. There are a run quantity of 5,000 in this particular batch, and it was in 1895 to 1896. Now that is impressive. That's an old watch. It's a full plate watch. You just roll down a bit. It's not adjusted or anything, but it is a big old full plate watch. And you can see samples of that watch on the right hand side that other people have put on in the system. And it's definitely that watch, so I'm impressed. 18S is the size, so that's the largest size you would get. I do have a Goliath watch that's bigger than that, but it's crazy. I'm not sure who made this, but the Goliath watch, but it is bigger than that, but this is your standard size. They went to 16 size S, 16S, and then down to 12S, which is like a banker's watch, and 6S and 0S. So those are the different sizes. So with these old pocket watches, there's absolutely no way you can take the power off of the watch without taking the movement out. So they just didn't have that ability back in the day to do that. So I want to take the balance cock and the balance out of the watch. I'll test it for magnetism first, just to show you what that looks like. And there's no doubt this thing is magnetized. So I just put the magnet on the top here and then watch it. And you see that magnet rolling back and forth? That is a magnetized balance. So we'll have to demagnetize this watch. I won't do it now. I'll wait till it's cleaned and then reassembled, and then we'll demagnetize it. So that will affect the hairspring performance. So it's a little tiny compass you can get in almost anywhere. Just don't spend a lot of money on it. Just go buy it and stop complaining. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not too worried about fingerprinting the thing right now because I just want to take the balance out. So I just have to stop it like that. And just like I've done with all the other watches, my new shtick is used. I used to use a toothpick, but this thing is so good. This is a Bergeron. See if this will zoom in here. Swiss made. Bergeron Swiss made 7010. So this is a 7010 and it's just a stick. So it's got this part on the end here. And I don't know what these grooves are for. I can't remember what these would be for. but it's got a flat piece here and a pointy piece. So the pointy piece. So I do this, and this is just so the balance doesn't hop around when you're taking it off. So you just put like almost zero pressure on this, just keeping it down, and then you do this and take that off like that. Now once again, I should actually take the hairspring stud off first and just take the balance apart, because I'm going to have to do that again anyway, so just like the other watch. So to do that, I'll put the screw back in just so it's sort of based there. Now these watches, you can scratch them real easy, so you got to make sure your screwdrivers don't slip by accident, because that'll scratch the watch. And then right on the side here, you can see there's a screw. I'm going to get close and take my hat off. I got a hat on right now, so, and you got to just loosen that screw. Trying to see where oh, there it is. You need the right angle. It's all about angles, right? It's all about the base. It's all about angles. So you just have to take this screw, and you make sure that your screwdrivers are in good condition so you don't cause any problems. I'm trying not to slip here. Trying to show you what I'm doing, but not slip, and I don't want to put pressure on there so that the screwdriver slips into the movement. And then I've taken, for the life of me, I can't remember what these damn things are called, but anyway, they you guys can write me and let me know. But if I just push this down now, it's going to go most of the way down, but not all the way down. So I just can do that, and then I'm holding the movement now with my hands, and I want to make sure this doesn't slip sideways. So you need to be straight up and down, and don't put a lot of pressure on the screwdriver. So if the screwdriver does slip a little tiny bit, it's not going to be of any great consequence if you don't have a lot of pressure on the screwdriver. So now I just want to take a very small screwdriver, this is the yellow one, and wedge it in here to allow me to lift that up a bit. And seeing that it's lifted up a bit, I should be able to poke out like this, poke out the stud. Oh, you little bugger, look at you moving. There we go. Now, a lot of times when you're replacing the balance on one of these old vintage watches, you end up having to shim it or something, because the actual balance is so darn close to the big plate here that it doesn't always come out nicely, right? So I've seen watchmakers, you can use watch paper for shimming it, so just look it up for watchmaker's paper. This is it here, and you end up cutting a piece of paper out and then shimming it underneath here, which raises it up a bit if the pivot's too tight in the upper jewel and it's touching the cap jewel, the upper cap jewel. So, but I'll have to take all this apart. I will examine these jewels to see what they're looking like, right? To see if they're old, worn out and everything, whether I need to replace the jewel or not. And then I'm going to clean the balance intact, because I don't think I need to deal with balance, like taking the hairspring off, because I'm not doing anything here, and I suspect that the hairspring then is kind of lined up properly. Like the pivots look really good here. I'm going to put a little tiny piece of Rodico on the back of this watch and just push it down a bit like that, and that will protect the pivots from me screwing up. Let's hang on. I'm reaching back right now to get a watch case. I've got I think I've got something like 12 of these things, right? So hopefully I don't have 12 watches on the go. But so I just want to put this over here, because I'll clean that separately, and I want to put this next to it, or over here maybe. I'll clean that separately. So these two parts here, and then I'll grab the screw for the balance cock and then put that in there, so it's not going to get lost. So I don't really need my balance tack. So, But just in that thing here, I built this balance tack. So I just took a piece of brass, I fashioned it, I cut the grooves in the center to allow the balance to sit down. I made 2 different sizes, so this could either, you could either put it here and have the balance resting on this nice faux leather, which I like to do, or you could have it hanging on this one here. And then I built a little tiny bowl for the screw. So you put the screw in the bowl, and you've got this, and it's got just these little dollar store legs here. And so this is a balance tack I built a couple of years ago, I think. So you've all probably seen my dunker tank that I also built. I was into building things, I think, a couple of years ago. So, but I have pretty much most of the tools. I can't think of any tool that I don't have. That's pretty sad. I'll tell you what, call my wife up and ask her if I have too many tools. We'll see what the answer is. So let me put the shtick away. When I put the shtick away, I put the flat part on the bottom so I don't wear a hole in my shtick. So that's that. Now the next thing I want to do before I remove the movement is actually take the hands off. Now the reason I want to do that first is that I can just get them out of the way, so they're not going to get bent or anything. So I'm just going to see if I can pull this out. There we go. That's snapped out, and we're just going to move this to the 12 o'clock position. Not that it really matters, but it makes it easier to take the hands off. So, and I can put this straight down now because I don't have the balance on it. I'm not too concerned. There's the, that is acrylic, so it was changed obviously because back in the day they did not have acrylic crystals, so they had glass crystals. Look at the face here, and there is a bit of stuff on it. So let me see if I can get some glare for you so you can see it. There's a little, see there, a little bit of dirt on the crystal there. So, or not the crystal, the face. So what I do is I take a piece of Rodico, pull it out, bend it over, and then make the end kind of like this, and then you can take the face and clean it up a bit, right? But I'll take the hands off to do a proper cleaning, and I'll leave the face in on the watch, and that just cleans it up so nicely. It gets rid of gum and everything else that might be on the watch that you don't want on there. So I got to get my hand removers and my little piece of protective hand removing stuff to remove these big hands. So I do have the extreme hand removing tool, like this one here, for example, that is very precise for removing hands. But this tool is not necessary for an old pocket watch. This tool is great though if you want to remove hands from like a very high-end watch, not a pocket watch. So I just pull that out to show you what that looks like. I made another video on that particular tool, but these are the tools I use for removing hands. If you can see, they're very wide, so they don't put any pressure on the face. And you just cut a piece of paper like that to protect the watch. I bought these Bergeron plastic paper things, and they're kind of crap. They're too thick, first of all, to get underneath the hands. So here, you just use the sides of this here. You don't need to use the middle. Just use the side like that. And then you leverage up to take the hands off. Let me see if I can do this nice and successfully. There we go. And that just removes the hand. And there's one hand there. And let's get this out of the way. And I'll put these in the plastic container. And there's the other hand. These are big size 18 hands. Now I do have, if it comes to it, I do have replacement hands, but this worked really well. So there's the hour hand, the hour wheel here on the outside, and this would be attached. This would be the cannon pinion, I believe, and attached to the secondary minute wheel. So, but we'll see what that looks like in a second. This hand here, the small one here, very difficult to get a piece of paper under this. So I have different hand removers for this that usually work. They're very small, they're very intricate, and if you're very careful, they won't mar the movement either. I do like to make the hands, remove them straight up, so there's no stress on the pivot, right? So there we go. So that's straight up, no stress on the pivot, and that's the hand there. These are the other hand removers. I believe you can get these on AliExpress from China. They're not that expensive. These are Bergeron hand removers, so These might be a bit more. I can't remember whether I got these on eBay or AliExpress, but they're nice and wide, right, which spreads the force so you don't have any chance of cracking the dial, which you don't want to do, right? So, right? So, I do say so a lot. I apologize. Now, just to stay high end here for you folks, I'm using a Bergeron 5395. This is a gel pad here for your watch. So it's gel. That's a pad, what do you want to call that? They've got cheap ones you can get online, but don't get a cheap one. Get a good one here, because this one will allow the hour wheel and the cannon pinion to sit here without a problem. And then you can, and it won't ruin it. And then you can use that very carefully to unscrew the movement. And these are half screws for the movement, so that should only have to turn halfway. But you end up taking these out anyway. And you pull the crown out first to do this, but I've already pulled it out to set the time, so we're good. So then I can just back off the case. So there's the case. Looks like it's in fairly good condition. I just clean this case up with Rodico. Sometimes if it's really dirty, I'll dip it in lighter fluid and clean it up that way. I don't think it serves any purpose to put it into an ultrasonic cleaner to clean that. Unless you're going to remove the crown and stem and get inside here to do any work, then probably not necessary. When I oil this, I usually come from this end here and I try to get my oiler right inside there to give it a little bit of oil, but it's not that significant. So, and these cases, this is it's not stainless steel, it's a nickel case, I believe. Let's look at this and see what it says. Probably nickeloid or what is it? Silver. No, it's silver. So it's silveroid maybe. No, something silver case. Yeah, it's not silveroid, so it's a silver case. Nice. And there's a case number on there as well. You could look in there, see that number. So you could likely look that case up. So there it is there, but it is silver. I thought it might be silveroid, but it's silver. Again, to maintain the vintage look of these watches, right? So now what I want to do is remove the dial first before I remove any of this. And again, you want to make sure everything is well protected. So again, I think the yellow screwdriver would be sufficient for removing the dial. And when I take these pocket watches apart, I don't really have to go down low. And what I do is I remove the dial screws here. I loosen those dial screws. Make sure you've got a good grip on the dial screws with your screwdriver. I may have to go deep and dirty here for a second. I think I may have to lower my chair. So instead of raising the desk, I lower the chair. Someday I'll get a proper watchmaker's desk, but I'm using this one for years now. I wouldn't know what to do. So there's 3 screws here, I suspect. There's the third one. You don't want to strip it while you're doing this, so just screw it part way out, and then you take your screwdriver and work it into the under the dial, and the dial should come up a bit. I take a bigger blade to go around and look where those dial feet are, and then just do that. Sometimes they reattach, but you can use the fat of your thumb and stuff to keep it apart. So there we go. So the dial's off. Like I said, I do need to clean the dial, and normally I would clean the dial while it's down in its position, right? So there's no problem. This time I won't bother with that. So when you do this, keep an eye on that pivot right there, because that is the pivot for the second hand wheel. So you want to be very careful with that particular pivot, because that can cause all kinds of problems. I'll clean the dial later when everything else is clean. And there are the dial feet. I did another video online of how to solder on dial feet. Got some good comments. So one comment I got was that when you're soldering dial feet, you want to have the maximum heat for the shortest period of time, which gives you the best result for soldering dial feet. So here's the movement, and here is these parts. I might not take this apart. I talked to another watchmaker, And when he cleans watches, he never takes the mechanisms here apart. He just oils them. I might not take it apart because it does risk you not being, like the screws in here, it does risk you kind of screwing this up, right? So, because there's springs in here, there's a spring here, these are leaf springs, and a spring here. And this spring here pushes up on this little cam or knurl here, which helps for the setting of the watch, right? So you can usually take out the minute wheel here, but I may take out the cannon pinion first before I remove the minute wheel, because it looks like it wants to be stubborn. So I do have a device to remove the cannon pinion. So this is the device. It's a cannon pinion removal tool, and it's got the jaws on the end that grab the cannon pinion. There's two sets of jaws. There's an inside set and an outside, and it grabs the cannon pinion and pulls it outward. And then you have this here, so you have two bases, and then you pull up. And so you just find an area that's flat, and you try to get that cannon pinion removal tool over the top here, and then you pull up like that, and hopefully that will do. And there we go. And so I was able to just pull that straight up and remove it. You want that to go straight up because you don't want the cannon pinion to bend the pivot of the center wheel, right? So there's the cannon pinion. Looks like it's in pretty good shape, but we'll end up washing this too. So I'll put that in the scrub-a-dub-dub cannon pinion in the tub machine. Now this little wheel here is the hour wheel here. This should be, or the minute wheel. This should come straight up, and usually they tuck in, right? So if I take a piece of Rodico, I might be able to just stick it in and do that. There we go. That's the best way of doing that. Rodico is man's best friend, or if you're a female watchmaker, Rodico is woman's best friend. So there we go. So that's that. It looks like all of the gears are in place, and the teeth look pretty good here. So I have another video where I actually had to replace a tooth on a watch. That is a big job. So you got to once again measure the value of the watch and see whether it's worth your while to do that work. So now I can flip this thing around, but I want to put it into a movement holder because that pivot for the cannon or the center wheel will poke through my nice Bergeron gel. So I have my Myers number 58 movement holder here. I've managed to scoff a couple of these babies, but what I want to do is release the pressure on the mainspring. So I'm going to have a look at this and see what this looks like from that perspective. So this little lever here that's kind of sticking out of the watch, see if I can do that right where my fingernail is here, that you move sideways, and that relieves the pressure from the mainspring. So I want to do that with a toothpick. So I grab a toothpick. You should always have your watchmaker's toothpick. And then I want to have my I need to have a bench key for this, and this looks like it's too small a bench key. So you need to have a bigger bench key. Usually they come in sets of 3. You can get them on eBay or other places. So you want to take that bench key. Again, the old before I do that. So before I do that, I just noticed that I want to tighten down my dial screws. Because they're so small, you don't want to lose them. So I just tighten those down quickly. And just snug. They don't have to be tight. They just have to be in there, right? So just take those, because I don't want them falling out when I clean the watch. So just tighten those down like that. I think I missed the whole thing there. There we go. Tighten those down. And we'll make this video the disassembly of an old watch. Again, I've taken these things apart before, but I think this time I won't. And just see if it's, because it's not of any consequence. I can still oil that without having to because it's the winding mechanism, so it's not affecting the actual amplitude of the watch at all. So there, that's done. I'll want to take the screws out, the case screws out, but I can wait a few minutes to take the pressure off the watch. So what do you do here? How do you do that? You take your Myers number 58 movement holder and you move it aside. And here's how I do it. I find a, now this is, when you push down, the watch is in winding position. So if you look down on the other side of this, if I push like this, you can see how that gear goes to the bottom of the watch and it winds. If it's out like that, it's in setting position. So that's the two positions. And so what I want it in winding position, then I want to push this little lever upward, which will relieve the mainspring, but it won't let it fly out. Then I have to very carefully let this thing go. So I want it in winding position. Then I'm going to push this lever, and now I can feel pressure on the on the wind from the mainspring right as I turn this around. And I let go for a second, take a rest, reset my hands. I apologize for the long fingernails. As you folks know, I do play guitar, and that's why the fingernails are long. They've been long since I was 15, maybe 14. So I had a lot of teasing when I was a kid. But in order to play some of the songs I play, you need long fingernails. There's no if, and, or but. So there we go. That's done. I can feel there's no more pressure on the watch. So the pressure is completely off of the watch right now. Now I can get my number 58 movement holder. And then I'll say, but before I do that, what I want to do is remove the case screws here. Very carefully. I'm going to tilt this thing away, so if the screwdriver slips, it'll slip down just like it did. See? So you tilt it away and then it slips down and doesn't slip onto the movement. And there's one screw. And I'm being aware of the fourth wheel pivot again, right? So there's the other screw. And I just heard it tick. That way I know it's out. So there's that. And now I'll put it in the Myers number 58 movement holder. I look down, there's that pivot right there. So you make sure this movement holder will not impact that pivot, so I'm not too concerned there. But I'll just put this in the movement holder, and next phase is removing the plates. All right, the first plate I'm going to remove, just move this tool out of the way for a second, is the plate for the mainspring. So I should be able to take the mainspring out. And again, when you remove these screws, you kind of have controlled force on the screws when you remove them, right? And I like to couple my screws up with my plates, so when I do the cleaning, I know where every screw goes. And these are nice blued screws, which is nice. And they do that by getting the screw up to, I think, a straw color with heat, and then it's able to be blued. It's not easy being blue. So there we go. That's the plate there, and I'll just put this aside. I don't need my winder anymore, and I got to get rid of my Canon pinion removal tool. So now I just have to lift this mainspring out of its holding place. I should be able to lift it straight up. I can do that now, or I can wait till I get the other stuff off. So I can remove the main plate of this straight up. And I'll show you with the reassembly some of the tricks I've done with Rodico to hold the pallet fork in place while you're doing that work. I'm really curious why they scratched the serial number off this thing. My thought is it was stolen at some point in time, maybe 100 years ago. It was at the OK Corral. No, OK Corral was 1880 or 1868, I think, somewhere around there, or 1886, I think. So it wasn't the OK Corral, but it was in the 1800s. Somebody may have stolen this watch and then scrubbed out the serial number. Hopefully it wouldn't be traceable back then. Because back then they didn't have databases online, so it would have been very difficult. So now that I've got this off, you can just wedge your screwdriver underneath one of the pillars here. And there's 3 pillars, and as you can see, it just comes right off. So there you go. Now what you got to watch is that when you're taking this out, there's a plate there, and you have to pull it outward so it doesn't touch that. Now what I do when I finish this is I always take a picture. And the reason for that is that if there's some idiosyncrasy or some craziness going on with this particular movement that you can't remember, take a picture and you'll be able to see there. This is patent July 3rd, and this is 83, so likely 1883. So that's pretty impressive. This is an old watch. The old watch, see now the barrel comes out nicely, and we'll take the spring out later and clean that up. And then if I look at the removal of parts and the order I need to remove them, I should take out the pallet fork straight up again, so as not to ruin that. I clean that by hand. I clean the pallet fork by hand. And then the escapement is next. I'll just put that there. And then the third wheel is there. Should be the third wheel. No, it's the fourth wheel. To heck. Lay that down so the pivot is up. You're seeing me in the bottom corner do that. And then I can take out the center wheel. And they're pretty tough, those things, so I'm not too worried about that. And that is the third wheel, I think, right here. So I've got all my wheels out, and I don't think I need to take any of this apart, which is great. So I can oil that. Now look at the complexity of that spring there. So now, if you took this apart, which I've done many times, by the way, but if you took this apart, you have to reinstall this, put the end of it on there, and make sure the springs on the other side are all lined up perfectly. That's a good hour, sometimes more, depending on how complex this is. But it does take a lot of time to reassemble all that. So it's not worth it. It's not worth the effort. You just make sure the screws are tight, and you can still oil it in the various places here, like here, here, here. So I'm going to leave it in place this time. This is awkward or odd for me to do that, but I'm going to do it only because a fellow watchmaker said don't take it out. Why would you do that? So I can put this whole thing in the cleaning machine and clean that. So that's what I'm intending on doing. So now I'll stack that in the cleaning machine really quickly, or cleaning baskets really quickly, and there are the baskets. Sounded like there's parts in there from another watch. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Let me look. Is there parts in here? No, there's no parts in here. I'm just dreaming. I'm dreaming. So let me just move my camera up a bit here so you can see what I'm up to again. So I've got there's the watch cleaning baskets here. This is an old watch, so there's not that many pieces to it. It's just very rare, very difficult to replace or find pieces if you lose them. So I put the main plate in there. I'm going to have to take out the spring right now because the spring would go in here as well. So there's the mainspring. This is always tricky because you got to put it back in. It's got a T on the mainspring, and those are such a pain in the butt to put back. It's not even attached through here. I'm looking down and I can't see the other side of the T. Is it there? Yeah, no, it's there. It's there. So to remove the mainspring here, you have to grab your thingamajobby doohickeys and put them inside the hole here, and then leverage that up, and that'll take the cap off. And then you can walk the mainspring out. I'll show you how that's done in a second, but what I always do is I take a picture of this mainspring to see what it looks like. Again, photo time. And see, you get that picture. And I just want to see what direction it goes in. And then I'm going to wash the mainspring and the barrel. So I can push that barrel out. And usually I got these wonderfully long fingernails, which are superb for this kind of stuff. There's the mainspring arbor, so I'll throw that in with this. I'll throw the barrel cap in here. I'll turn that upside down. And then I can just grab that mainspring and walk it out. So I'll show you how this is done very carefully. Now, I've replaced many mainsprings, and you can still get mainsprings. I go to cousinsuk.com for my mainsprings because they got a really good sizing system there. So you can size the mainspring nicely. So I'm going to try to walk this out here. Let me see, how am I going to do this? I want to get it started here so I can walk it out. There we go. So now it's started. Just have to make sure it's good on this side, and you'll see as I walk this out how this mainspring is pretty much set, I think. So there's an option here. I could pick up another mainspring, or I could see what the amplitude is after reinstalling this mainspring, and if the amplitude is good enough, I keep it. Now, I'm not showing you the walkout because I think the camera dipped down, but There we go. And just walk it out. My thumbnails are friggin' handy for this, by the way. This mainspring is big. There's some math on mainsprings. I'm trying to remember the math. That 83% of the barrel or something for the strength. There is math on mainsprings, though. So there's the mainspring, pretty much coiled up. So that's pretty much set, I think. But I'll throw that in there, and I've got enough room to put the barrel somewhere else, so I'll put the barrel over on the side here. So hopefully that fits in there. If it doesn't, I'll move it around to somewhere else. No, it's not going to fit. So I may have to put the barrel in with the mainspring, which is not a problem. And then I've got some plates I also want to put in here. So I think I'll just take this spring out for now and put the plates in like so. And then these 2 screws are for this plate, so I'll bunch my screws up like this. I'll just put 2 screws here, and then on the other side of this I'll put the 3 other screws. And they're so big I don't need to put them in the little baskets. But there we go. And then I have got these two screws here I'll put in the middle, 1 on each side, just to keep everything balanced out nicely. So now I have these baskets here. I want to put the balance. I don't need to put the balance cock in there because I'm going to be cleaning that with alcohol by hand, but I will put the wheels here in there, so, and the cannon pinion. And this is a big cannon pinion. This is a tough cannon pinion, as cannon pinions go. So it's not going to have a problem, but I'll put those into baskets just to be a good boy here. So we'll just open up the baskets. I got to go downstairs and sign a card. I'm always signing cards. It's what I do as a husband. This is for my dad's girlfriend. So sign that card, and it means more if you sign them, I guess. So it absolutely does mean more. So I've got another little basket here that I might want to put another wheel in. Sometimes I put them free form in there depending on the wheel, but this is the escapement, so I want this to be well protected as this goes through the wash. So I'm putting in this by itself, right? That's the escapement in there all by itself. And then these other wheels are pretty big, but I want, the one I'm worried about is the 4th wheel that's got the it has the pivot for the second sand, right? So I want to take that 4th wheel and put it down like that so the pivot's facing upward and I don't have a problem. There we go. And I think that's all my baskets filled up for now, I believe. Let me see if I got this one is filled. Nope. One more basket. What will I put in here, you ask? Let me think. What do I want to put in here? Can I get this wheel in there? Maybe. Look at that. So that's the 3rd wheel that fits in there nicely. No problem. And then the center wheel would be way too big for one of these baskets, or would it? It probably wouldn't, but I'll put it over here. See how that just jumped in the basket? Amazing. And I don't want to lose my escapement, so I'll put that over with my watch hands. So that's pretty much that done. So let me just pack this up again. We got this. We got, actually this goes in next, I believe. And then this goes in over that. Is that the way it works, or is it the other way? I'll have to look at my video to see what I did. I believe it's like this, and then like this. There we go. And then the top of this, I try to put the smooth edge on the top here so nothing falls out. And this goes into the cleaning basket like this. You just grab it from the bottom like that and then feed it down. And what I do is I make sure it's absolutely flat. I look at all the corners so I don't have anything that might jump out on me. And that's ready to go into the cleaner. So I put that inside of a box so when I go down to my cleaning machine, I don't accidentally trip and parts are all over the place. So that goes into the box and I'll clean that a bit later. So that's that, and what's in here now is this stuff. So I still have the this face that I need to clean up after. I want to keep this away from anything that might cause damage, so I'm just going to put that like that. put that like this, and then put this on top of that, like this, and then just lean my face. So I take that face, I want to stay away from the seconds hand and the escapement, so I'm over on this side and just lean that over like that, so everything is kind of out of the way, and then I've got that, and then this goes, as you can see in the lower camera, out of the way. So I did look down and see the world's smallest wire or whatever on my mat. I don't know what that is. See that wire? It doesn't look like it is from anything, but just in case, I'm going to put it in with this stuff here. I don't think it's from anything. I don't recognize a wire like that. But you look down on your mat and you go, what the hell is that? So that's pretty much it. That's the whole watch disassembled, and it's in the case, so I'll make the video now and we're good. Let me go downstairs and sign a card. So thanks for watching my video. This is a disassembly of an old Waltham pocket watch. This is the pocket watch here, and it was made in the late 1800s, as it says, 1895 to 1896. It's a model 1883. Now that might, as I saw in the movement, it said patent, and it said 8 July, I believe, 83. So that's probably why it's called in 1883. So there you go. That's when the patent happened. Full plate. It's a full plate, and it's got a movement setting, a pendant movement setting, and it's an open face, and it is a plain regulator on that. So beautiful old watch. So thanks for watching my channel, and I'll catch you later.